Hey, let's do it for the content. Mega Ran. Let's go. Let's get it. Dick Kick City. It gets gritty when Mega Ran come through. The kid gets busy. Work yourself into a shoot, but you know it's legit. Like what you like, just don't be a dick. Hey, wrestling with regret. Let's get it. Yeah. What's that set? Maybe you should bottle it. Drink it and spray it on. Get Claude to model it. 8 years in, can't look back. Who else can make the law sweatsuits look whack? Wrestling with regret. Let's get it. Yeah.
Many, many moons ago, I said this about Cody Rhodes.
Somehow, in a team made up of a couple of charisma vacuums, Manu ended up being the least interesting of the three.
And after some time and some deep thinking on the subject, I wish to humbly apologize for that statement. I'm big enough to admit when I'm wrong, but in my defense, I don't think there are many who could have predicted the incredible twists and turns Cody Rhodes' career would take when I made those comments a mere 6 years ago. Heavily motivated by the memory of his legendary father, Cody abandoned a fate worse than death as a perpetual WWE mid-carder to reforge his image outside that bubble, eventually getting in on the ground floor of what's arguably the #2 promotion in America before going back to the company where he first gained fame. And man, talk about a return. Cody was only active in WWE this year for like 2 months, but that brief window began and ended with some of the most ridiculous, iconic moments we're gonna see all year. That WrestleMania moment, the return to rival all returns, something that seemed inconceivable just a year or two ago. Then that Hell in a Cell match, wrestling at such a high level with that injury. I'm not saying he should have done it or that others ought to follow his example and prove how tough they are, but I'll be damned if it didn't put him over with me as one of the biggest stars right now in wrestling. What a difference 6 years can make. But between those humble beginnings and the ridiculous present in which we currently reside came a run of big highs and lows that were felt across the entirety of AEW and its fan base. There was a time where I thought I would never have to make this video, or at least wait a bit longer than 3 years to do it, but as I often say on this channel, wrestling is crazy sometimes. This week we examined the wild 3 years that was Cody Rhodes' time in All Elite Wrestling. First, we need to backtrack a little bit. The year was 2016. A young Cody was sick and tired of being Stardust, which honestly I thought could have been a cool gimmick, but maybe that's just me, and requested his release from WWE. It wasn't long before Cody became the darling of the independents, building his reputation not only as a breakout performer, but a stand-up guy to boot. The Cody of Ring of Honor, New Japan, and the Indies did what the Cody of WWE could not, and that was connect with the fans and take them on an emotional roller coaster, not just with moves, but with body language, facial expressions, timing. Pairing that with the edge of an angry young man with something to prove made Cody one of the hottest names in wrestling for a time, parlaying that momentum into an ROH World Championship run in 2017. It was also in Ring of Honor where Cody would form a friendship with the Young Bucks, and the rest, as they say, is history. By 2018, being the Elite was a popular fixture in many wrestling fans' viewing rotations. Still going strong to this day, the vlog has always provided a tongue-in-cheek look at the behind-the-scenes goings-on of wrestling, featuring a zany cast of characters. That year, a simple tweet from Dave Meltzer, who said that no non-WWE show would draw more than 10,000 fans anytime soon, led to a bold response from Rhodes, planting the seeds for one of the most important wrestling events of the modern era, All In. This independent event sold out the Sears Center in Chicago in mere minutes and saw Cody win his first NWA World's title from Nick Aldis. It would be undone in like a month, but it was still a cool moment. All In's resounding success piqued the interest of wrestling superfan and billionaire Tony Khan, who now realized that another major national promotion was viable. By early 2019, the ROH and New Japan contracts of Cody, the Bucks, and Kenny Omega had all expired, clearing the way for them to help start All Elite Wrestling and pick up some sweet EVP titles along with it. But more than anyone else, it was Cody who was presented as the company's unofficial spokesman, an eloquent ambassador of the promotion's mission of changing the wrestling world. Now, when the Elite was at their peak, each member had a very specific role. Kenny Omega was the crown jewel and the workhorse of the group. Matt and Nick Jackson were the tag team. Hangman Adam Page was the young blood with a lot of upside. And Cody was always guaranteed to give you the most emotional match of the night. And boy oh boy, did we get that at AEW's first ever pay-per-view, Double or Nothing.
I am not here to kill Dustin Rhodes. I'm here to kill the Attitude Era.
Cody used his newfound creative agency to pursue the kind of match WWE didn't seem to want to pursue, a generational battle between he and his brother Dustin Rhodes. Compared to their last one-on-one, a stinker of a match at Fastlane when they were both under the paint, what fans saw in Las Vegas was a revelation, a bloodbath the likes of which hadn't been seen in mainstream American wrestling in quite some time. This match, which ranked somewhere on the Muda scale, was arguably the greatest of the year. After putting the metaphorical horse out to pasture, Cody embraced his brother to resounding cheers. Oh yeah, and he also smashed a throne, which sure seems awkward in hindsight.
That was subtle.
All Elite Wrestling spent that summer building toward their eventual television debut happening in October, and Cody spent that time doing what would partly define his career in that company, helping build up-and-coming stars. It began at Fyter Fest that June when he and newcomer Darby Allin fought to a time-limit draw. The two would wrestle twice more in the company, and the series gave Darbs the launching pad to become one of AEW's biggest homegrown talent. It was also at this time Cody welcomed his new best friend, Maxwell Jacob Friedman, into the fold as his cornerman. Despite the fans being able to see a heel turn coming from miles away, Cody spent months in the dark about MJF's true nature. But hang on, thwack! Oh damn, look at that shot! Which of course is very bad and dangerous, and no shame on us for talking about it. From brother Dustin to youngster Darby to old friend Shawn Spears, Cody used his pull to shine a light on people who weren't exactly being ballyhooed at the time. That, combined with his penchant for having violent and emotional matches and angles, show that he was not intent on resting on his laurels, not to be braggadocious about his place in the company hierarchy. No, his elevated entrance did that enough for him. After beating Spears at All Out, Cody wrestled the first ever match on Dynamite in October 2019. His opponent was another young upstart in Sammy Guevara, a rivalry that would eventually bookend Cody's AEW run. After later being attacked by Guevara in the debuting Inner Circle, Cody began the angle that would forever alter his path in the company, depending on who you ask, for better or for worse. Earning a world title shot against Chris Jericho at Full Gear that November, Cody boldly declared that if he failed to win the match, he would never challenge for that title again. The stipulation certainly added some intrigue to the match and honestly made it hard to pick. Would they really have Jericho drop the belt so soon after he won it? Could one of the company's most powerful individuals really never challenge for the World Championship again? Let's not forget all those different theories and fan booking of how AEW could eventually go around that stipulation should Cody lose here. It was time for the moment of truth, and as just about everyone could see coming by the end, old MJF stabbed the roller coaster in the back and cost him the match, cementing his place as AEW's new #1 villain. The feud lasted for months, with Cody once again using his equity as an attraction to build another star. Arn Anderson. The former Horseman signed with the company in late 2019 after a handful of appearances and became a full-time character by the turn of the year as Cody's personal advisor and head coach. I'm not saying that it didn't work because it's not as if AA took away much from Rhodes, but I also don't think that it did work because face managers almost never do. I think the pairing was okay in small doses, but most of the time it felt like Arn was just part of the furniture. It was also around this time where Cody revealed a brand new tattoo that symbolized him literally putting his skin in the game.
And we can see Cody now bearing the mark of the Nightmare Family.
Oh wow, that is drastic. You know what though? At least it's his own brand. I mean, I literally have these guys tattooed on my arm, so I'm the last person to criticize what anyone puts on their body. After jumping through multiple hoops to get his match with Max, including taking lashes with a belt and fighting Wardlow in AEW's first ever cage match, the valiant hero came out on the losing end once again. Wrestling logic deemed that a rematch was due, but strangely, the Cody MJF feud was a one and done. In my opinion, it made Cody look a little weak considering all the ways MJF had done him wrong. But being able to walk away from a Cody feud unscathed no doubt helped build the heat fans had with the salt of the earth. Then again, perhaps it was the pandemic that caused the feud to run cold, as we were about to head into the empty arena era and everyone's schedules were about to change. Cody and his giant tattoo were on full display in the opening minutes of that iconic Dynamite from Daly's Place on March 18th, as he delivered a poignant promo to help usher in this strange new time period. Wikipedia states that Cody left the Elite soon after the pandemic got its hold on wrestling, but it felt a lot sooner than that. Unless you watched BTE every week, Cody's involvement with the core group of guys that started this whole thing was practically non-existent by this point. On TV, there was almost no intertwining of the original trio of Omega and the Bucks and its latter members, which did play into the story of the group's supposed decline. By the time they wanted to get the whole getting back together against the Inner Circle for what would have been the first Blood and Guts match, COVID happened and everything was thrown out the window. As far as I can recall, Cody's departure from the group really wasn't made a big deal on TV, a rare time where his selflessness for the good of the angle was not put to good use. It wasn't the prettiest dismissal, but at least it freed Cody up to be the solo star he obviously wanted to be. With the world title out of the picture, Cody pivoted to the newly created TNT Championship, which he won in an 8-man tournament, beating Lance Archer in the finals at Double or Nothing. It was very subtle then, but to me, this felt like the beginning of fans starting to turn on Cody Rhodes, at least in the online realm, since fans weren't really back yet. Cody winning this whole thing felt obvious, but it angered fans who thought that Archer could have benefited from the win more. But if AEW is going to commit to the stipulation, then Cody winning here felt like a good consolation prize at the very least. And like I said, Cody was AEW's biggest public face at the time, so it stands to reason he'd be made the network's first actual champion. It was made clear in promos and interviews the TNT Championship wouldn't be treated like some lower card mid-tier belt. It'd be on the same level as the World Championship. But when Cody had the belt, I felt this was very similar more to like John Cena's US Championship reign in 2014. It might not have been the main event title, but it was held by a main event guy, which immediately elevated its status. Cody spent most of this run continuing to place the spotlight on up-and-comers and new faces like Jungle Boy, Ricky Starks, Scorpio Sky, and a fellow by the name of Eddie Kingston, who earned his contract on the strength of this run alone.
I am a grown-ass man, and I will put you in the ground and smile.
In August, Mr. Brody Lee beat the brakes off the American Nightmare to become the new champ, making him a force to be reckoned with. Cody was written off to film his Arrow appearance, which explains why he came back with this Dark Side of Hulkamania phase. It lasted about as long, but long enough for him to regain the title from Brody in a bloody dog collar match in October. It was Lee's final match before his untimely passing later that year. In 1 week in early November, Cody finally regained the Rhodes surname after WWE dropped the license to it, but then lost the TNT title to Darby Allin at Full Gear, a move that closed out their series and made good on the promise of that match back in the summer of 2019. Cody's next feud was against another fast-rising star in the biz, basketball legend and current business magnate Shaquille O'Neal. The original plan was for Cody and wife Brandi Rhodes to team up against Shaq in the also debuting Jade Cargill. However, in the latest of what had become a series of grand performative moments for them, the Rhodes dramatically announced their impending parenthood, so Brandi was out. In her place was her stunt double, Red Velvet. She and Cody had as good a match as possible with their completely inexperienced opponents. Shaq finally got to have his match about 20 years in the making, got put through a table, then vanished inside an ambulance, a mystery that was never settled. Well, as long as everybody had fun and stayed safe. Once again, Cody benefited from being the ambassador of AEW by getting to work with a big crossover star in a spectacle-style match that was going to get people talking. In the end, the most important thing to come out of this match was it was the start of Jade's massive push that's still going strong as of this recording. But it was hard for me to ever really get into this one. Like, here's Shaq in his first wrestling match 10 years too late, teaming up with a lady you've never heard of, also having her first match. Also, why exactly did Shaq want to fight Cody? Who knows? Having helped build up younger talent for so long, the time had come for Cody's real passion project, getting his friends in the Nightmare Factory over. First came co-owner of the training school and AEW producer QT Marshall. In March of 21, QT betrayed Cody and took a handful of his students with him to form the splinter group The Factory, Aaron Solo, Nick Camarado, and a plucky Englishman named Anthony Agogo, who we'll get to in just a minute. Cody being betrayed by a friend was nothing new at this point. We'd already seen it with Shawn Spears and MJF. That might be a reason why the angle started out so lukewarm. I mean, eventually, Cody needs to find better friends. To make things more challenging, the villain in this story was QT Marshall. As good a trainer and performer as he is, up until this point he'd constantly been presented as an enhancement talent, and no amount of Cody's shine was going to change that perception amongst the fans, making him look underprepared and his proteges a bunch of chumps by extension. It would have been like if Sergeant Buddy Lee Parker in WCW brought up a whole bunch of guys from the power plant to help take over. Well, the second half of that idea happened, I guess. It also didn't help that Cody went straight through Marshall the way spare ribs go through my digestive system. Out of that feud emerged a conflict that would do more to alter the fans' perception of the man than a neck tattoo ever could.
The Governor, Anthony Agogo.
It was was time to turn the clock back to 1993 and this feud with factory member Anthony Agogo, the UK-born boxer turned grappler. For whatever reason, this feud between veteran and rookie turned into USA versus England, an overtly jingoistic storyline that was staggeringly out of touch with the 2021 audience. Agogo cut a bunch of promogos laced with anti-American sentiment, but it's not like he was saying stuff that wasn't true. It kind of made you wonder why he was meant to be the heel in all this.
But this ain't Great Britain, this is shitty America. I do not like living here in America. This place is good for one thing, money.
Boo! On the May 12th episode of Dynamite, Rhodes spoke from the heart, putting over how wonderful America is and basically equating the fight for racial equality to the fact that he, a white man, and his wife, a black woman, got together and were having a kid, which obviously had never happened before. Yay, America! The promo tried to build America up as the land of opportunity and freedom and harmony less than a year after it had just gone through a very elongated period of civil rights protests. The country was still trying to heal from that, and Cody was all like, all this arguing is what makes America great. P.S. Agogo's a hypocrite because he's here on a work visa. It had all the vapidness of a political campaign speech with major this guy energy. And if that wasn't bad enough, then came their weigh-in a couple weeks later for their match at Double or Nothing, a segment that was very bad. Okay, first of all, weigh-ins in wrestling. They're always dumb, right? Secondly, this bit saw one of the first AEW appearances of Paul White as the host of the weigh-in. I'm all for more off-the-cuff segments and promos in my wrestling, but sometimes you just gotta rehearse shit, you know? And oh yeah, Cody beat Agogo at the pay-per-view thanks to the power of America, and fans hated it. If the TNT title tournament was the appetizer for Cody haters, then this feud was the main course. Cody had completely exited the bubble of coolness he had found himself in with the Elite, and left to his own devices, became a wrestling version of Homelander, right down to his freaking entrance jacket. In an era when performers' personal beliefs and professional perception are intrinsically linked, Cody's timing in declaring and doubling down on his patriotism was an amazing misstep. To be clear, I am not saying it's inherently bad to show pride and love of country, but this particular approach was incredibly outdated, and just given the way things are in this country, it was bound to divide some wrestling fans. And on top of all that, Cody's seemingly golden touch of helping make younger guys was nowhere to be seen this time around. To his credit, Cody has expressed regret for how the whole storyline went down, and even though he stood by the content of his infamous promo, he also understands how it could have rubbed people the wrong way. So after losing a lot of his cool factor with a portion of the fan base, the natural thing to do would be for him to lean into that and turn heel, right? I mean, you could argue Cody is a natural heel. Look at his first run in WWE, or his time in Ring of Honor, for example. But like his first run with the TNT Championship, Rhodes borrowed another page from the John Cena playbook. For the next several months, Cody would cut promos where he all but said, "I am not turning heel," making fans wonder what was real and what was kayfabe. There may have been a payoff to this that was never realized, but in the short term, it made him come off as out of touch and stubborn, a supporting player in a movie where he was once assistant director. Cody's future in AEW is getting muddier and muddier. So muddy, you could say, it was almost turning black. In what was almost a note-for-note repeat of the feud with Brody Lee, Malakai Black invaded the company and also systematically targeted Cody and his friends. After a loss to Black in Daly's place, Cody began taking off his boots, the collective "come on" of everyone watching. Like his tear-swelled promos, it was almost like Cody was hitting the panic button to convince fans to reinvest in him, but these gestures were all viewed cynically by the fan base. It didn't help his cause that more prominent WWE stars like Black, Bryan Danielson, Adam Cole, and of course CM Punk had followed Cody's roadmap and entered the company, potentially decreasing Cody's value. Cody once again took a sabbatical from the company before returning for revenge against Black, spurned by Arn Anderson in his now classic Glock promo, where he implored Cody in the most violent terms to get his revenge at any cost. And like the feud with Brody, Rhodes got his win back against Malakai, but seemed to further damage his own cred in the process. There had to be some sort of plan here. Cody's too smart a guy to let his career go this far off the beaten path, right? I mean, the heel turn felt inevitable, yet despite that, he seemed to do everything in his power to move in the opposite direction. Cody seemed willing to go to extreme lengths to prove his worth to the fans, most notably during a street fight against Andrade El Idolo in his hometown of Atlanta last December. That one's most remembered for his bump through a flaming table, the scars of which can still be seen on his back today. Yet despite all that, nothing seemed to stick. Whether it was Cody's very public and stubborn refusal to turn heel that inspired fans to make it a reality, or the fact the company's culture had simply passed him by, the final nail in the coffin was the burgeoning feud with American Top Team and Dan Lambert. Lambert, one of the best MMA coaches in the country, made waves out the gate with his cornet-light promo style meant to denigrate AEW and its fans. Yet that still wasn't enough to get fans to cheer Cody and Brandy Rhodes.
Are you done?
No matter how many pounds of flesh Cody gave to the fans, sometimes even seared, he had seemingly passed the point of no return. Yet Cody sallied forth and cleared his final months in AEW on a high note, feuding with Sammy Guevara over the TNT title. Though many fans were initially upset at the prospect of the God King Cody getting back what had been presented as a title for the future generation, he soon dropped it one final time in an epic ladder match with the Spanish God. Whether he already knew he was out the door or he just wanted to prove something to himself and the fans, Cody left it all in the ring in what would end up being his AEW swan song. Unable to come to terms on a new deal, the Rhodes left the company they helped build in February of 2022, paving the way for Cody's monumental return to WWE that April. In just 3 short years, Cody Rhodes and the fans ran through an emotional gamut. He went from being one of AEW's most beloved personalities to its most reviled, from their biggest single star to somewhat of a nowhere man from a creative standpoint. Cody has gone out of his way in interviews to put over AEW and Tony Khan and has expressed how much he learned from his time there, how he realized he wasn't ready for the responsibility and the pitfalls of being an EVP, how he might have been a bit too giving of himself in the company, how he didn't want to be known as the gatekeeper wrestler for all the new talent coming to Jacksonville. But humility and respect are two of Cody's biggest attributes, so I guess that comes as no surprise. I remember a lot of people being upset at Cody leaving AEW given how closely linked he was to that company. A lot of fans saw him as a symbol of hope and inspiration, a vanguard of change against the boring monolith of WWE now going right back to it, so it's understandable this feeling of betrayal that diehard AEW fans had toward him. But people are allowed to change priorities over time. I can speak from experience that becoming a father can alter your entire worldview, and that may have been a factor here. We may never get a clear-cut explanation as to why Cody felt the time was right to leave, but ultimately that was his decision and shouldn't be used as fodder in the never-ending holy war between WWE and AEW fans. There were always the accusations that he buried the talent that he was put up against, like he had a golden shovel of some kind. Yes, Cody won the majority of his feuds, but that's to be expected given who he is and where he was. Yeah, some of his later era feuds were not great, and I can admit that fans were probably getting tired of his shtick. The air of self-importance, the pomp, the pyro. Because of that self-imposed ceiling on where he could go, unfortunately it meant that some promising wrestlers had to lose and that there would be some storyline repetition. But to accuse Cody of doing something on the level of Triple H or John Cena is quite frankly an exaggeration. Progress in a wrestling career is often a game of inches, played over a very long period of time. By getting those early seals of approval from Cody, guys like Guevara, Darby, MJF, and Jungle Boy got a huge boost in their stock value that would end up paying dividends months or years down the line. For some, it even continues to climb. Cody may have been falling into the trap of being a gatekeeper by the end, but a lot of good-ass wrestlers went through those gates. Some of the booking was frustrating, but with a couple of major exceptions, I wouldn't go so far as to call it burying. Cody's grand return to WWE was cut short due to his injury, a bold new chapter that didn't get a proper conclusion. Based on what little we saw of him this year since WrestleMania, the promise of what could come upon his return is genuinely exciting stuff. But I don't think we as a fan base would be feeling half the excitement about him if not for those pivotal 3 years with AEW. So how would you rate Cody Rhodes' run in All Elite Wrestling? Let me know in the comment section below. Don't forget to thumbs up the video if you like it, subscribe to the channel, and buy the t-shirts at ProWrestlingTees.com. I'm Brian Zane, and I'll see you next time.
Is my language mundane, my vernacular so out there that you don't understand? The slack is gold dust. But he's not alone. The slack is Big Show, is Kane, is Mark Henry. It's all these hanger-ons, give me a paycheck, old men talking, young men dying.